What is up, Steeler Nation? Welcome back to the Steelers Hangover. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me, as always, is Shannon White. Shannon, how you doing on this extended weekend, Memorial Day weekend? Remember to those that made the ultimate sacrifice. How you doing this weekend, Shannon?
We've had a really great and blessed long weekend and spent a lot of time with family. Some family came in from North Carolina, and it was always great to reminisce and remember those that gave all and those that are no longer with us, and just be with a family and very blessed and thankful.
100%. 100%. Yes, sir. Me and the family did the same as well. We had my brother who served in the military, and although this isn't Veterans Day, but he came over. We hung out and had a barbecue as well. So it was a good weekend. It was a good weekend. And for those that are tuning in on the YouTube side, we're on at a different hour, as you guys have noticed. This is going to be the hour that we'll be having the show. We'll be going on live at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time on Mondays for the foreseeable future. So make sure you guys adjust your calendars and do those type of things, because this is when we're going to be going live. But with all that out of the way, let's talk some Steelers football. You know, I saw earlier today a couple of headlines go out there that Patrick Queen turned down quite a bit of money to become a Pittsburgh Steeler. Something about the Steelers are paying him up about $14 million a year for 3 years. Well, apparently he had offers upwards to about $17 million per year. So that's some significant money that he turned down. He says that he wanted to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers because he thought the Steelers were a place that he could win now. What do you think about his comments? And, you know, there's some other players who are on some team-friendly deals. I mean, Russell Wilson, he's here for $1 million, things like that. So is Pittsburgh kind of becoming that destination city where you have players coming who want to win now?
Well, I think that Mike Tomlin's a big part of that.
Yeah.
His reputation as a player's coach, he really cares about each of the men, not just as players, but off the field as well. Mm-hmm. And I think that's guys have bad experiences playing for coaches that, you know, maybe don't understand the professional athlete. Some guys are, you know, they're good college coaches, but they're not NFL coaches. Mm-hmm. But I think Tomlin is a very good NFL coach, and he's very relatable because he's real. And I think a lot of the players want to play for him.
I think so too, and I think that's absolutely right. I mean, that's one of the things that we have heard a lot about. You know, Justin Fields wanted to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was the place that he wanted to come to. And when he was asked at his locker, he said one of the big components of that was Mike Tomlin, as you said. And he's looking to compete. They look like there might be some sort of a little bit of a battle. I don't really think so. I don't know if we've spoken on this topic since Justin Fields has spoken and said that he's ready to compete. But how confident are you that there's going to be a real quarterback competition this upcoming training camp?
Well, I think there's going to be a competition in Fields' mind, you know, in his opinion, because you want that. You don't want a guy that's just going to be like, I'm going to be happy standing on the sidelines holding the clipboard all year. I want a guy who wants to be in there playing, not cause a drama and disrupting the offense and the chemistry, but you can compete and do it the right way. We've seen Mason Rudolph do that for quite a few years. He did not rock the boat. He did not create unnecessary drama, but he always said he was ready and he was trying to compete for a starting position, especially after Ben left. Mm-hmm. And so you can do it the right way. And I think that Justin Fields will. I just want to see them use him and utilize him in specific packages each game. And that way you can really learn what you have in him, because, you know, he could be an option moving forward. So, and they need to find out this year. And he's truly a weapon, as we know, because how athletic he is. And it looks like they're going to put some packages in. There's been some rumors of some different groupings, and I'm super excited to see it. But it's going to help Fields have Wilson as a mentor, to see his confidence, how calm he is in the pocket, and how his leadership, how he leads that offense, being a 15-year veteran. So it's just going to benefit both guys if they do feel like there is, they have to earn it and there is competition.
Yeah. No, I think that it's going to, at the end of the day, it's a good problem to have. You have two guys that have high potential, one guy who's been there, one guy that, has the potential of doing something, who's very young still. He's younger than the former quarterback here. And I just feel that maybe perhaps with the right coaching in the right place and the right mindset, maybe perhaps he could have some kind of resurrection to both of their careers.
Oh, yeah.
And I think this is the right place to do it. I mean, the talent that's around on the offense, around the quarterback position, I think it's pretty apparent at this point. I mean, yeah, there's one question mark outside at the wide receiver number 2 position. But when you have a Pat Freiermuth, and all indication is that he's probably going to play a lot of that wide receiver 2 position. He's going to be that guy. And I think when you look at the past of where Arthur Smith has been, it's always been that tight end as that wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
And so, maybe perhaps that's why the Steelers aren't so, keen on giving up a first or second round pick for one of these big name guys, because maybe they don't see I don't know that they're going to get their money's worth when it comes to, their style of play, so to speak. So I'm excited. I think that this team here, I mean, like I said, outside of that one wide receiver position, the biggest question mark is going to be the quarterback position. And I think that even with the wide receivers that they have today, if the quarterback position wasn't the question mark, I think we would be more comfortable with it, because we all saw what Ben did with some of the receiving cores he has had. So, one of the packages that you mentioned is being called the Death Star. Is going to have Cordell Patterson, Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, and Justin Fields in the backfield. How long do you think, if it's successful, that Cowher, why did I call him Cowher? I'm going back way far. How long do you think that Tomlin is going to take, if he sees that successful and sees that defenses are struggling, also having to defend a more mobile quarterback before he makes that switch?
Well, I think if in a perfect world, Russell Wilson will grab a hold of that position through his leadership and his experience, because there is a lot of new players in there, and a young offensive line, young receivers. George Pickens is going in his 3rd year, and I think he's 23. So these are young kids that are ascending, but they're not there yet. So his leadership could be invaluable. That will take all the pressure off Justin Fields, and then he could just really, learn these different packages, the Death Star or whatever, run these RPOs, and flourish without having the pressure being the man. And it would just give him an extra boost. There's so many weapons. They don't have an ideal wide receiver 2, true, but they got like 5 guys that can fill that role, and one of them is Pat Freiermuth. And as you said, in Arthur Smith's offense, that number 2 guy in targets is often the tight end. And Freiermuth was not even utilized, much less used properly under Matt Canada. So I'm thinking that we're going to see a huge boost to Pat Freiermuth's performance, his production, and that's really important. And this is a big season for Freiermuth with his, a contract year.
Yeah, no, I agree. Last year, and I think against the Bengals with Matt Canada there, he ended up with like 13 receptions or something like that, or 13 targets, 9 receptions.
That was the first game after they fired Canada.
Yeah, and it was the game that everybody thought that. I mean, it was the game that started everything to turn around. Granted, it was also the game that after that, Kenny Pickett gets hurt and go on a little bit of a slump there, where we had a couple of easy teams we should have won against. But thank you, Mitchell Trubisky, who's no longer here.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, man. So many things could have been gone down differently down the road had the Pittsburgh Steelers not put in Mitch at that point. But, we can't dwell in the past. It is what it is.
But you remember, we talked about it. We didn't want him to go to Mitch.
Oh, yeah.
We wanted him to go to Mason, and they didn't. And they paid for it.
Yeah. That's one of the things that just kind of like, I don't know, boggles the mind, so to speak. I think everybody in Steeler Nation saw that Mitch Trubisky, it just maybe it's just the team, maybe it's the city, maybe it's the situation. He came in thinking he was going to be the man, and got the rug, swept right up underneath of him, at the draft, and then the fans booing and calling for Kenny. So, he really never had an opportunity, and I don't know if that mindset created some sort of negative play on the field, but yeah, that was bad, and I'm not sure how, if every fan could see that, why Tomlin continually put him out there until it was almost too late. You know what I'm saying?
Two things that stuck out was the majority of fans were like, why the heck are you bringing Matt Canada back last year?
Yeah, that's
true.
It
made no sense.
Mm-hmm.
But then you turn right around and listen, Mitch Trubisky, great guy. Nothing against Mitch Trubisky, and I wish him well. But he was not going to work in that offense. There was no way. And I think most people saw that.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted – they were fine with replacing Pickett, especially after he was injured. None of us wanted to go to Trubisky, though.
Yeah.
That was at least go Rudolph, because we had seen him in the offense. We knew what Trubisky was going to do, and he did it.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody wants to hear this or not, but I'm hearing Mason's doing pretty good out there in Tennessee.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Ramon
I've not heard yet. I heard him talking about Pickett was out playing
I heard that too.
But this is, OTAs.
Yeah.
But same thing with Mason. But, there is some competition there because it's Levis, but is Levis ready to be the starter? So, the coaches might decide to go with Rudolph.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that that Ramon Foster brought up when it comes to Mason Rudolph in Tennessee was that's a new coaching staff.
Yeah.
They wanted Mason. They brought Mason. Yeah. They didn't bring in Will.
That was their decision. Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. So we'll see how that works out. We'll see how that ends up working out. I hope the best for that young man. But
definitely.
The Steelers, they went a different route. I think that when you look at this situation, I honestly think that Russell Wilson should do better than what Mason did last year. Wouldn't you agree to that? Would you think that Russell Wilson, given the fact that he's at least played, he had 28 touchdowns, 8 interceptions or something like that, like 26 touchdowns, 8 interceptions last year. Him in the Steelers situation, even his playing last year, don't you think it would be better than Mason Rudolph's?
It's all going to hinge to me on the offensive line. I think that the offensive line, if it's as improved as I believe it will be, they're going to be able to have that established running game that all quarterbacks need. Yeah. And if he has that, and that'll back that pass rush off. You remember last year, there was so many games, teams had 6 guys up there at the line. Yeah. 7. They was daring the Steelers to run, and then they would blitz them out of that. And and they didn't have the line they could hold up to that. But I think that the offense will be much more successful consistently running the ball, and that's going to make it open up the play action and the RPOs. Because Russell Wilson is not a statue; he is mobile too. He doesn't run as much now, probably self-preservation, but he can when he needs to. So that offensive line is very key.
Yeah, I agree. I think the offensive line is going to play a huge role, which is why, like me personally, I'm not opposed to how the schedule ended up playing out. Having those games that, against Atlanta, that's not necessarily meaningless, but it's the 17th game of the season. It's the NFC opponent, things like that. Offensive line that's going to have, in my opinion, I suspect 3 different players in different positions, 2 rookies and Broderick Jones on the left. Now, it hasn't happened yet. Right now it's Nate Herbig. It's in the middle. It's Broderick Jones on the right and Dan Moore on the left. How long do you think that charade's going to keep up before they actually put in the guys that they plan intending on starting week 1 of the season?
Well, Tomlin's notorious for making you earn it.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody can see, George Pickens was the most talented guy out there from the moment he stepped on in OTAs, but he had to earn it. And he's going to make these guys, even though they drafted Frazier to be the starter. And they've even talked to him about that during the pre-draft process. And he's the most plug-and-play ready center in the draft. So he will start. I think that it might be after the first preseason game second preseason game, but he's going to outclass everybody, all the competition, and he will start. And I seriously feel like that Dan Moore will be the backup, and Roderick Jones will be back at left tackle.
Yeah, yeah. So no concern that first, second, third, both third-round picks, no first-team snaps, but undrafted rookie Beanie Bishop has been playing with the first team. What do you think about that with Beanie Bishop's performance or practicing with the first team, getting some first-team snaps?
Well, I know that at first, Beanie Bishop, they had Josiah Scott, who they picked up, I think maybe through waivers from the Eagles. He started there at the beginning there at OTAs in the slot and everything. So, I mean, right now, I don't put a lot of stock in who's starting and who isn't. Troy Fatanu, he had some struggles. He said, you know, the speed of the athletes, the speed of the game already in OTAs. It's not an athlete. It's not a talent problem.
Yeah.
It's just an adjustment. Because even though you played in the, you know, the championship game for Oregon, it's still it's an upgrade in talent, obviously. So he'll adjust, but I expect him to be starter week 1 as well.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up also being the starter week 1, especially if he's taken some first team snaps. I'm not necessarily saying he's a starter now, just that he's played with the first team, lined up in the first team a few snaps. I think that's a positive thing. It sounds like his coverage ability is superb. He says he looks up and idolizes his game after Mike Hilton, and you know we've been looking for a Mike Hilton's type of slot cornerback since he left, and you know hopefully. Beanie Bishop can fill in that role.
He's very similar. He really is. But he's much faster and better at coverage.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm hearing. And you know, if that ends up, because that was one of the biggest, I guess, concerns sometimes, especially the way the Steelers played. The opposing team would put their wide receiver 1 in the slot position, then you'd see Mike Hilton up against a wide receiver 1, and that was kind of the times where I would hold my breath in those type of situations. But the Steelers did that with linebackers too, so it wasn't just with slot cornerbacks that they had wide receiver 1s on.
Yeah, that's what we were talking a while back. That everything now in the NFL is mismatch. They look for the mismatch, and they find the weakness, and when they find it, they target it. Well, how many times, as you said, Mike Hilton on a top receiver, and a lot of times Robert Spillane, they would put this guy in motion. Against Spillane matched up against a real quick slot guy. It was a no contest. Yeah. And so that's why the upgrades they've made on defense as well with the speed is really going to help reduce the times that they get caught in those mismatches.
100%. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those upgrades at speed and the linebacker position after a few words from our sponsor. We're going to take a quick break. Those on the YouTube side, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after a couple of seconds. We'll see you on the other side. Hey, welcome back to the Hangover. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me is Shannon White. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're talking about this upcoming season. Right now, we had mentioned about the middle linebacker position and the speed behind it. Cole Holcomb actually had an interview. I want to say it was with Steeler Wire not too long ago. And he made the statement that he's going to play football again. You know, he says that his recovery is going good and he's going to play football again. He didn't give a time frame as far as, you know, training camp this season or anything like that. But, you know, I think the Steelers had, you know, made some moves to perhaps replace him if he doesn't come back. But if he does come back, I think that's only going to make the room stronger. What do you think about the possibilities of Cole Holcomb coming back? Well, I mean, I don't know if you're a doctor or not, so I'm not sure you can answer that one. But let me rephrase that. If Cole Holcomb comes back, what role will he have on this team?
Well, I know that it's 7 or 8 months, I think, removed from when that, you know, he was taken out by friendly fire. It was just a freak accident, and it was a very ugly injury. They wouldn't even show the replay. You know, you could see it online, but I was very concerned about, you know, is that going to be one that's going to hamper him or end his career? But he's already up and moving. He was at OTAs, and Tomlin actually spoke about him, about how hard he is working. And, Tomlin don't just throw around faint praise. So he sees the effort. He sees the desire. We know Holcomb was playing excellent prior to the injury. He had solidified that spot for us. And so I think that he's got the work ethic and the desire to make it back. And I was scared about any nerve damage, but I cannot find anything other than rumors, nothing substantiated that he has any kind of nerve damage. And if that's the case, it's just going to come down to when. So I'm thinking, he might miss, let's say he even misses the first 4 games through at worst half the season. When you do get him back, you're going to have Landon Roberts, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, who I think is going to be a starter probably by mid-year, if not sooner, because the kid's a freak. And then you'd have Cole Holcomb. And in the meantime, Quan Alexander's trying to get signed on somewhere, and he looks like he's doing great in his recovery from his ACL.
Achilles.
No, it was his Achilles. He tore his Achilles, and he's already recovered from a torn Achilles on the other leg. So we know he knows how to rehab and to come back successfully. So there's some really good options there, even if Holcomb does miss part of the season. But I think he would be the backup, when he does come back. But he'd give him great depth.
Yeah, I agree. I think he would also be playing in a limited role. I don't think he's going to – it was pretty horrific. And although there hasn't been any diagnosis, I think it's been pretty well said that it was more than just an ACL injury. There was some more damage to the leg, whether it be, other ligaments or anything else. Nobody knows the extent of what more means. When
you've seen how it bent backwards like that, I don't know how he didn't tear all 3 main ligaments. So I have not heard that he did for sure. But it did damage to the patella. Stuff can stretch, but it takes a lot of rehab and all to get that strength back. But I just think it's great that he's even at OTAs right now.
Yeah, me too. I think, and like I said, I think once he does come back, I think he's going to be a piece that's going to be moving back and forth because, let's just say unless he's clear to go come training camp or clear to go at some point, I feel that if that doesn't happen now and it happens in the middle of the season, you probably want to get him acclimated to the speed, to the game, and things like that. So you're probably going to limit his snaps, have him here and there, and put him in. I think it's going to depend on how the other guys are playing in front of him is going to determine how much time he's going to get at that point. I think that if you have, let's just say it is Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen just kind of, playing with their hair on fire out there, I don't know if you want to take that off the field. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but they need a breather.
True.
And we know Landon Roberts from his previous stops, he is a great depth guy. Because when he comes in, he instantly imposes physicality, and he has great leadership, and he's very intense. So he doesn't have to be out there because he's not great at coverage, but he really did better last year coverage than I expected, especially after the starters went down. At the end of the year, he was their best coverage guy. And so I think he's a great depth piece. And if you had him and Holcomb as your depth, your backups, man, Steelers would be in great shape.
Oh, I think so. And I mean, like you said, last year they went through two middle linebackers back to back, pretty much season enders, and then you had Landon Roberts.
Weeks,
and then you had Landon Roberts, not necessarily go out for the year, but he had a pretty serious injury that he was playing with. So the more guys
jacked up,
so the more guys you have back there that can play, it's probably better for you, especially in a season this long and with some of the games that they have and who they're playing. A couple of those Thursday night games against divisional opponents and coming off of Ravens games and things like that. Those aren't going to be easy. And so
did you hear Peyton Wilson? They were in an interview. He's like, he don't know where the whole thing about him not having ACL is coming from. He said that, he injured it in, I think, 2018 or 2019. And he said that, that he'd come back from that. And he said his knees never give him any trouble the last 3 years in college. And you see how effective he was. So he says he don't care. He says his knee's fine. So I like to hear that. That makes me very happy.
Oh, yeah, me too. When he said that, and I mean, he hurt his leg a while ago, and since then he's been relatively healthy the last couple of years,
Mhm.
and he's been clocked almost 24 miles an hour
That's
on the
crazy.
football field, man. So
That is crazy. At his size,
yeah,
uh,
maybe you need to take that ACL to get faster or something. I don't know.
yeah. Oh man,
it's slowing you down. I think that's what's what's going down.
who needs an ACL?
Yeah, but I'm excited for those guys. The big question mark obviously is going to be up front, though, on the defensive side. Cam Heyward has been sitting out of OTAs. He's asking for a contract extension. I don't know if the Steelers are going to give him the one that he's wanting. Maybe perhaps he gets one or he doesn't. If he doesn't get one, he says that he's not done playing football. He's going to continue to play ball. I don't see Cam in any other uniform than a Steelers one. I hope they extend him. What do you think? You think they're going to extend him or not?
Well, the Steelers have already said they're not going to try to not pay him what he's owed this year, even though it's I think $22 million cap hit. I'm kind of against that at his age, but they want to do right by him, and they've been hesitant to extend him because he is 35, and you don't pay a 35-year-old aging defensive lineman $20 million plus a year.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if they make him an offer on an extension, they're going to try to, it won't be for $27 million. So they're going to have to kind of come together and hopefully find a peaceful medium, because nobody wants to see Cam Heyward anywhere else in anybody else's uniform. When the great ones do that, it's just sickening. And we don't want to see that. But I hope he understands, because, it wasn't his fault he got injured last year. But if you remember, he got hurt in the first game against the Niners, and then he went back in. And when he went back in, I was very concerned because you could tell it was something around the groin area.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, if he tears it completely, he's going to miss half the season. And guess what? He went back in and he played one or two plays, and guess what? He tore it. Yeah. So, I think sometimes players have got to be smart enough to realize that trying to tough something out, you might put yourself in a position to where you miss the season. Mm-hmm. And so I'm hoping that he can work something out with the team and it not be a lot of drama here at training camp.
Yeah, me too. He was there at the was it the Resilience Bowl? So he's in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he didn't go to OTAs, but he didn't need to be there.
No.
And I think he did go to that, like you said, I think it's Resilience Bowl or whatever. I see Ben throwing little passes.
Yeah, he threw a touchdown pass. He had another fourth quarter comeback. It was, he still got it. He still got it. Yeah. Oh man, that's a good time. But I saw this title, or I've seen this coming across, and this kind of just jumping back and forth a little bit. Juju Smith-Schuster has been rumored to being cut. Some people are asking, is he going to find his way back on the Pittsburgh Steelers? They need a new wide receiver number 2. How excited would you be to see Juju back in black and gold?
Juju will always be special with me. Mm-hmm. When he first came into the city and what he brought to the team, his youthful exuberance, and he was just like a little kid out there playing, just enjoying. You see so much drama from a lot of receivers and all. He was just having fun. Mm-hmm. But I know he's still young. He's a young man, but they say that knee is shot. Yeah. I mean, when the Patriots signed him and all, at one point last year, they said that they thought his career was about over. And then, they blamed it on the offense and Belichick and everything else. But I honestly think Juju's about done. I hate to say that. I think they got better options already on the roster. Mm-hmm. I love the guy, but I'm not interested in him coming back.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think that if he makes his way back onto the team, I don't see him ever being like a wide receiver 2 or 3. I think he's just strictly like really, really bad depth. I mean, not bad depth, but like behind and in the depth. I don't think you'd ever see him on the field outside of special teams. And I don't think he's a guy that's going to be playing a lot of special teams. So
no, especially with the knee. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that knee was an issue. It was an issue while he was in Pittsburgh. 2019. Him and James Conner were that's when it started. They started getting a lot of injuries. He
Yep,
started
yep.
getting injured a lot. His legs started getting injured, and so he had some time or had a hard time staying on the field. He's had a hard time staying on the field everywhere else he's gone. So unless you have him in some kind of small role, I don't think he's your answer for wide receiver number 2. Let me put that. And so I wouldn't want him back for that.
Definitely not wide receiver too.
No, not at all. But he's a guy that's not afraid to block. He's got
Nope.
a wonderful hit on Burfict, and
Oh yeah, love it.
and so I wouldn't be opposed to him playing, like I said, in some sort of small capacity role, limited role. Not your down out receiver or anything like that. But for the most part, I think the Steelers are going to pass on that. When it comes to this team, it looks like they've kind of moved on from some of the players from yesteryear, so to speak. I mean, they've moved on from Kenny Pickett, who was the quarterback, everybody, and they didn't do the 5th-year option for Najee, which I do think they're still going to end up probably signing him. He looks good. Have you seen how thin he looks?
It looks like he's lost more than 7 pounds. But I guess when you're that lean and you built like he is, it made a huge difference. You could tell. And all the running backs in the past, from Le'Veon Bell, James Conner, they got better. They were more effective and successful after losing some weight. And hopefully Harris will be the next.
Yeah. I thought this was the move he should have made after his freshman year going into his sophomore year. Lose some weight, get some burst. That's kind of like what Le'Veon Bell, James Conner did in their second year or in their sophomore year going into it. I'm excited to see what he has. He looked a lot faster. I saw a couple of drills and he looked like his speed was up. Given the fact that he's going to have Cordell Patterson and Jalen Warren back there, because I do think that now that we've heard about this Death Star role and package, and maybe perhaps Cordell Patterson might end up having maybe not a large role, but a bigger role than anticipated. So I think that's going to end up taking some snaps away from Jalen Warren and from Najee Harris, which would end up prolonging his health, in my opinion, at least. What do you think?
Oh, I think it's a benefit to both guys.
Yeah.
And you want a guy with the versatility of Cordell Patterson. You in the hands of the right person, and hopefully Arthur Smith is that person, and he has the creativity to utilize these guys. They have a lot of weapons, and if you just think of how they could be used, in the past the Steelers lacked speed, they lacked explosiveness. It was George Pickens or it was not happening, and now they have quite a few guys that can run under a 4.4 even. So, at Cordell Patterson, you can line him up about anywhere. So, I'm like you. I don't think he's going to see a ton of snaps, but he can be used in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. I'm excited to see what they do with him. I mean, it looks like Arthur Smith has a lot more reins on this team than the previous guys. A lot of these former Atlanta Falcons players, a lot of these Arthur Smith type of players have joined the team. So we've definitely seen that. Russ asks if we would take Cameron Sutton back.
Yeah, I'm already on record answering this other podcast. What do you think about that?
I mean, if his legal issues clear, I've heard a lot of different things about what occurred with the situation, and I think that right now is probably not the best time to do it. I think that if you're going to do it, it's probably right before the season starts, and everything has to be cleared. Like everything has to be cleared. No legal things pending, and I think that a decision probably would have to be made by Roger Goodell whether or not he's going to be suspended any amount of time before the Steelers would do any type of commitment to him. And at that, it's probably going to be a low commitment for a short amount of time and a short amount of money, which is probably all he's going to be offered, if anything, anyways. So I wouldn't be opposed to it, especially if maybe perhaps they're struggling to find a cornerback in coverage, maybe in the slot, because he was able to play in slot and on the outside. I think he struggled when he was more primarily on the outside with Detroit. So a role for him on this team where you have Dante Jackson and Joey Porter Jr. on the outside, and you have Beanie Bishop, who's looks like he's going to be playing well.
Mm-hmm.
I can see a limited role for him on this team, and perhaps maybe an opportunity for a larger one if he shows his capabilities that he's had previously when he was a member of the Steelers. So, I mean, I would be open to it. Not today, maybe closer towards the season, and if they need him, if you go into this, training camp, and there's been a lot of talk that what's his name, Rush. He's been playing very well.
Darius Rush, yeah.
I've heard a lot of great
really
things.
good. They say,
him. Trice is coming back. I've heard some excellent things. He's expected to be able to be a 100%.
He's bulked up some.
That's true too.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see what those guys have first. You know what I mean, and then go forward from there.
The only I've said, I have no use for anybody accused of what he was accused of. I don't know. I think a lot of, now it's unclear what did happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that Tomlin really likes him. He knows the system. He knows the culture. He knows his teammates. If you bring him back, he doesn't have to get acclimated. He's ready. He even knows the scheme because it's still Austin's scheme. So he would have more value to the Steelers. And I don't think that a lot of teams would want to touch him until they know, like you said, is there going to be a suspension, and know more about what did happen. Expect anything to happen for a while.
Yeah. And like I said, right now there's nothing to talk about. So it would be news everywhere. And not only would it be news, it would be over analyzed and overhyped, and a lot of things would be put into it that may or may not have happened. So I don't know. I just don't think it's the right timing to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but I'm looking forward to it. I mean, OTAs, the second week is coming up. I think when does it start, on Tuesday, tomorrow?
Tuesday through Thursday, I think. And then the next week it's Monday through Wednesday.
Interesting. So you think we're going to see some more rookies getting some first team starts this week in OTAs, or is that going to be not until training camp at all? I'm not saying like complete rounds. I'm just saying a couple snaps. Any predictions for that?
Well, it depends on, a lot of times they're wanting to see who put in the time.
Mm-hmm.
If
That's
whatever
true.
they were struggling with, let's say maybe they didn't know the plays really good yet. And if they come back for that second round of OTAs and they feel like that they put that work in, they'll give them some first team reps. So a lot of times it ain't even just what's happening on the field. It's what's happening off the field too. But I'd like to see Frazier get at least a few snaps with the first team.
He looks good. He snaps the ball and gets out of position, that down position, fairly quickly.
Oh yeah, he explodes up. Yeah.
I'm impressed so far with his movement, his athleticism. Obviously, again, this is football and shirts and shorts, so the excitement has to be toned down a little bit. But from what I've seen, just watching the centers last year and warm-ups in a couple of the games that I went to, much quicker out of stance, much quicker up, very much more explosive. You can see that just from watching him do his warm-ups or his reps there on the field. I'm excited about him.
I would like to see Spencer Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
If he's going to get a few reps at center.
Yeah.
Because to me, Nate Herbig he's kind of on the cusp there. He might not make his team.
Yeah.
Spencer Anderson are one of them guys can pass him, because Nate Herbig's not really a good fit for zone blocking.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't look that good in it last year when he was in.
Mm-hmm.
So I would rather see a young guy like Spencer Anderson with his versatility. I'd like to see him get a little work at that backup center.
Yeah, I would too. I've heard you hyped him up all year last year, told me that he was a natural center and we should be excited about him. So I'm excited to see what he has. He's been out with Russell Wilson and hanging out with him. So he may end up I think he's going to end up having a role on this team just because of his versatility. And as you mentioned with Herbig, he seems like the kind of guy you want on your team. He seems like he plays nasty, but fitment is a big thing. And if he can't fit in the team, then yeah, you're right. You want to get somebody who can be a little bit more mobile. McCormick, he looks like a guy that could
Exactly.
fit.
Very athletic.
Mhm.
Like a 9.37 or something RAS score. I mean, Herbig, I think was 6 something. I mean, I looked it up just to see. I mean, because he's very limited mobility.
Yeah, and you can tell, you can see that, you can see that, and like I said, when I was watching, you know, the warm ups last season, I went to about like 3 games last year, and I watched the centers during warm ups because that's the only time I can watch them all 3 doing something at the same time. And his snap was slower, the ball traveling to the quarterbacks was slower, and his out of his stance was slower. And so I was like, man, I guess that's why they're sticking with Mason Cole.
Yeah.
You know, that's
because he was doing terrible, but he was still the better option.
yeah, exactly. And so, you know, I think that Frazier's, you might see him play a little bit. You know,
And you know what
I
else
saw
is coming up?
what's that?
We're getting, as closer we get to training camp, you know, there'll be a way too early predictions on maybe the Brett Kiesel Award winner.
Oh yeah,
And I think that a lot of we got to realize that Corey Trice didn't have a chance last year because he got injured.
yeah.
And so he'll be in there this year as an option. So not just the guys they've drafted,
Mhm.
but he's another guy that and all the undrafted guys. So it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. You know, one other person, this will probably be the last thing we talk about, Roman Wilson. I was watching some videos as well of the wide receivers doing some slants, and he did a slant, and you can tell his route running is just another level compared to some of the other guys. Like there was 2 clips. There was one where it was just Roman Wilson, and then one where it was the other receivers on the team, Calvin Austin, George Pickens, Quez Watkins, Jefferson. And when Roman Wilson did it, the quarterback stopped and said, "Do you see that angle? That's what I want."
Yeah.
And so he's already running the routes and doing the things that the quarterbacks are wanting to see. So I'm excited about that too. I mean, that could be another reason why the Steelers haven't forked up a lot of anything for another receiver, you know, at this point.
Well, again, in the offense, tight end, a lot of time gets those wide receiver 2 targets. And as you say, they got Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, who's more, you know, that's who replaced Dante Johnson when he was out last year.
Yeah.
And they say he looks better and more comfortable and more confident. So, you don't need somebody who's going to get 50, 60 targets. Yeah. And you also, if you could use a variety of players there, depending on matchups. But Roman Wilson is a champion. He won the championship with Michigan. You see what impresses me is his footwork is so crisp and he's so explosive in short area. That's when Mike Tomlin, remember at the Senior Bowl, said that Roman Wilson, his short area explosiveness reminded him of Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Now, watch him run routes, as you said, and who does that remind you of?
Yeah.
Antonio Brown could get open so quick. That's why they compared Deontay Johnson to him. Mm-hmm. But I think Roman Wilson's even more like Antonio Brown. Where Roman Wilson's got to improve. He's physical when he blocks, but he's not good at getting off press coverage. Mm-hmm. So that's why Michigan moved him all the time. So once he improves that area, and that's just repetition, take some martial arts, some boxing, whatever to, even practice wrestling technique to be able to disengage and get that guy's hands off of you real quick, because he's obviously will put the effort in. But Roman Wilson looks like the real deal.
I think so too. And the crazy thing is, he's actually bigger than Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was 5'10". I think he's 5'11".
Yeah.
He's heavier. I think he's around 180, 190. I think Antonio Brown was like 180, 185. I think he's about,
when he first came in, he was a little smaller than that, I think.
Yeah, he was smaller than that. He had to bulk up. Yeah. And Roman Wilson's a lot faster than what Antonio Brown was. Antonio was like a 4.5 guy, and when he came in, and Wilson's a 4.3 guy. So he's got the abilities. He's got the
pedigree too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so if he ends up being anything similar to what Antonio Brown is or was, God, That would be amazing. I mean, I think he's got more nasty to him than what Antonio Brown had. He's not afraid to hit people in the mouth or any of those type of things. So I'm excited.
And he's a team first guy. I mean, everybody says that.
Yeah. I think all these guys are. I mean, even when we heard Broderick Jones talk about whether he's like, he said, I'm a team first guy. I don't care if I'm on the left side. I'm going to carry him on the right side. Put me wherever you want as long as I'm on the team and I'm playing out there. And that's what I want to hear. That's what I like to hear. But, well, guys, OTA starts tomorrow. We got some things to look forward to, some news that will be coming up. Make sure you stay tuned to Steel Curtain Network. Make sure you go check out the website, steelcurtainnetwork.com. That way you can check out all the updates and anything that breaks at any time. You'll always find it out there first. So make sure you go and check that out. And while you're there, you can check out our audio-only podcast. I had one that just came out this past weekend, a couple days ago. So go check that one out. It's called Stay of the Steelers, High Hopes or Major Concerns. So go check it. As you can tell, it probably was a little bit more on the higher hopes side of things.
Exactly. Yes.
Any final words, Shannon?
No. Just hope everybody had a really nice Memorial Day, and just thank you to all the servicemen and women and all the families out there that didn't have their loved ones with them because of their sacrifice. It's not taken for granted, and God bless each of you.
100%. Yes, sir. And don't forget, guys, the Hangovers, new time on Mondays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. That being said, Shannon, take us out.